Good morning, everyone. Myself, Dr. Pallavi, Assistant Professor, History, Integral University. It's good to see you all here in the national seminar on Indian Knowledge System, Interdisciplinary Insights and Contemporary Discourse. And this seminar is organized by Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, Integral University. Today, we are here to dive into the rich heritage of Indian knowledge system and explore how these ancient ideas can spark fresh insights in our modern world. This seminar is about more than just lectures. It's about engaging with each other, sharing ideas, and sparking new ways of thinking. By crossing disciplinary boundaries, we can find innovative solutions to today's challenges. Let's make the most of this opportunity to learn and grow together. Now I am pleased to call upon our esteemed head of department, Professor Zeba Akil ma'am, and convener of this seminar to present here her welcome address. Now, over to you, ma'am.
Good morning, distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues, and dear participants. On behalf of the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, Integral University Lucknow, myself, Professor Zeba Akhil, welcome you all to the National Seminar on Indian Knowledge System. The primary objective of this seminar is to explore the multifaceted dimensions of Indian knowledge system encompassing philosophy, psychology, literature, science, and the arts. We aim not only to illuminate the traditional wisdom of India, but also to examine its relevance and application in contemporary academic and practical context. Today, we are privileged to have Professor Yogesh Pratap Singh, Vice-Chancellor of National Law University, Tripura, as the keynote speaker. Your presence today is the testament to the importance of this discourse, and we eagerly anticipate your insights. It is a profound honor to extend a warm welcome to our distinguished resource persons, Professor Ayaz Ahmad, Professor Siva Prasad Rambatala, Dr. Vinay Kumar, and Dr. Aslam Khan, each of whom possesses a wealth of knowledge and expertise in various facets of Indian knowledge system. To all the participants, including scholars, faculty members, researchers, and students, I offer a warm welcome. Your engagement and scholarly enthusiasm are crucial to the success of this seminar. I encourage all participants to engage fully in the discussions, contribute your insights, and foster a collaborative academic environment. Let us embark on this intellectual journey together, enhancing our collective understanding of the rich heritage of Indian knowledge systems. Thank you, and I wish a productive and enlightening seminar. Welcome, sir.
Uh, Now I would like to call Dr. Jishan Varsi to introduce our keynote speaker, Professor Yogesh Pratap Singh, Vice-Chancellor of the National Law University, Tripura. Jishan sir, over to you.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this national seminar. I am feeling honored to introduce such a learned and dynamic person, Professor Yogesh Pratap Singh. Welcome, sir. Welcome to the conference. Welcome to the seminar. Professor Yogesh Pratap Singh received his LLM from National Law School of India University, Bangalore, and LLB from the University of Allahabad. His doctoral thesis, entitled Contribution of Dissenting Opinion of Indian Supreme Court Judges to the Indian Legal System, a critical evaluation, is recognized as a significant contribution to the understanding of voting patterns of judges in the Supreme Court of India. This work was later published as book entitled Judicial Dissent and Indian Supreme Court, Enriching Constitutional Discourse by Thomson Reuters. Honorable Justice Dr. D.Y. Chandrachud, Judge and Chief Justice of India, authored a scholarly foreword for his book. Congratulations for the same, sir. Dr. Singh served as Deputy Registrar of Research in the Supreme Court of India on deputation basis. from May 2016 to October 2018. Dr. Yogesh participated in the 39th annual session on international human rights law organized by International Institute of Human Rights, Strasbourg, in France. Dr. Yogesh was also part of Sidhu program in France conducted for the university teachers. Prior to joining the National Law University, Odisha in 2009, when it was established, he was part of the founding team of KIIT Law School, KIIT University, Bhubaneswar. Dr. Singh has also worked as a legal researcher at the Rural Litigation and Entitlement Kendra in Dehradun. Professor Singh has presented numerous papers on constitutional, social, and legal issues at various national and international seminars. He constantly writes in the field of law in reputed law chronicles, national and international law journals. Dr. Singh also writes for the general public, contributing recurrently to the New Indian Express, the Statesman, the Tribune, Deccan Herald, the Wire, etc. Sir is currently holding the post of Vice-Chancellor in National Law University, Tripura. Earlier, he has been the Registrar of National Law University, Odisha, Vice-Chancellor in charge of National Law University, Odisha, Head School of Law at Local University, Saharanpur, Deputy Registrar at the Supreme Court of India also. Sir, we are welcoming you to our national seminar on behalf of Integral University and our Department of Humanities and Social Science. We are welcoming you. Now it's over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Jishan. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
All right. So very good morning to all the participants and all the organizers. I am grateful to Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, Integral University, Lucknow, for inviting me. It is a pleasure to deliver the keynote address on a very relevant topic which Government of India and the University Grants Commission, which is the regulatory body of the higher education in the country, is working and promoting, encouraging all the institutions of higher education to integrate Indian knowledge system and interdisciplinary education or multidisciplinary and holistic education. So thank you very much for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to speak in this seminar on Indian knowledge system, interdisciplinary insights and contemporary discourse. 2 days back, I participated in Northeastern Zone Vice-Chancellor's conference on this same topic. So it was on implementation of National Education Policy 2020. And one of the agenda was how to integrate Indian knowledge system in our course curriculum. And the chairman of UGC was present in Guwahati throughout the day, and he answered all the queries and all the questions raised by various head of the institutions in the Eastern Zone and Northeastern Zone. We already know that what is Indian knowledge system, what this is all about. It encompasses the traditional knowledge and the practices developed in our country over millennium, covering diverse fields, philosophy, science, arts, medicine, law, public administration, banking, commerce. We can list number of other disciplines. National Education Policy 2020 recommends incorporation of Indian knowledge system into our curriculum at all levels of education. At all levels of education. Now we'll hear, we may only refer to higher education institution, but education policy refers all levels of education. It says that the heritage of ancient and eternal Indian knowledge system and thought has been a guiding light for this policy. The pursuit of knowledge, which was called jnana, and wisdom means prajna, and the truth, satya, was always considered in the Indian thought and philosophy as the highest human goal, as the highest human goal. Indian education system produced great scholars, and it is not only in one specific area, it is in various or several disciplines, several areas, whether it is medicine, whether it is administration, whether it is uh, philosophy, whether it is art, whether it is science. So we have people like Charak, we have people like Shushruth, we have people like Aryabhatta, a great mathematician. Bhaskaracharya, Brahmagupta, Chanakya, his writing, and especially his classic Arthashastra is relevant in various ways in contemporary time. Madhva, Panini, Patanjali, Nagarjuna, Gautama, Pingala, Shankardev, Maitreyi, Gargi. I can give you hundreds of names of scholars who contributed to the existing knowledge, and who made seminal contribution to the world knowledge. So even other parts of the country, they were enriched, and they learned from the contribution of these scholars, which I mentioned in the diverse field of mathematics, astronomy, metallurgy, medical science, surgery, civil engineering, architecture, shipbuilding, navigation, yoga, fine arts, and whatnot. So Indian culture and philosophy have had a strong influence on the world, and that is why we had universities like Nalanda, which was destroyed, and now it is being again renovated and revived, so that we can revive our ancient heritage and culture. These rich legacies to the world heritage must be nurtured and preserved for posterity, and researched, enhanced, and put to new uses through education system. So this is what new education policy intends to achieve. That this rich legacy of our Indian heritage, which contributed at that point of time to the world knowledge, also must be nurtured and preserved for the future generation. To implement this aspect of national education policy, UGC has constituted an expert committee to formulate guidelines for incorporating Indian knowledge system into higher education curriculum in all the disciplines, and to provide a roadmap for the systemic study and research of various disciplines of Indian knowledge system, and provide guidelines for incorporating Indian knowledge system into undergraduate and postgraduate curriculum. The UGC also recognized academic institutions provide undergraduate and postgraduate institutions to the most number of students in India, and form the bedrock of the higher education system to incorporate these imperatives of Indian knowledge system in their curriculum, in the subjects, in various subjects, in its letter and spirit. It is also important that we should start doing it now, because we cannot implement these vision or intent of national education policy in one go. So we have to prepare our scheme. We have to strategize the implementation of national education policy, and especially the Indian knowledge system content. So first, we have to implement the prescriptions given by the UGC, the expert committee, which requires research on Indian knowledge system. It should be among the mandated tasks to be undertaken by all the institutions. So you have to start working and researching. So for instance, currently I am in Tripura, National Law University, Tripura. So we started a center called, because this is a single discipline university, law university, though NEP says that all single discipline university must turn into a multidisciplinary institution by 2030. So we have to create more departments, we have to create more disciplines, and we have to convert our university into multidisciplinary institution, not only focusing on legal education. So we have started various centers of research. And one of the centers of research is Center for Ancient and Vedic Jurisprudence. Because we derive many legal and juristic principles from our ancient culture. We can find out the roots in ancient heritage. So first is that we have to start researching on Indian knowledge system in each and every university. So if it is a commerce university, so it should be related to commerce and other related allied subjects. It is law university, then we should start working on legal aspects, how we can get input from our ancient culture and heritage. And then Indian knowledge system should form a part, an essential part of the curriculum taught in our school, college, and other institutions of learning. It is not one of the questions which was raised during this conference, which we participated 2 days ago in Guwahati. And the chairman UGC replied to that query that it is not that we will teach a separate paper on Indian knowledge system. We can introduce one 4-credit course or 2-credit course or 3-credit course in Indian non-legal system in each program. We have to integrate, if we are teaching BA, BCom or BA LLB, we teach various subjects, and each and every paper, suppose we teach for 50 papers in 5 years in BLLB, in legal education curriculum. So in each subject, we can integrate, when we teach this subject curriculum, design curriculum, we can put the element of Indian knowledge system. So suppose I am teaching contract law, so we can mention in the syllabus of the contract law either one unit or one module, or in the first module, that how in our ancient times, in ancient legal text, how contract was done, how contract was executed, how contract breach of contract was compensated. What was our tradition? What was our convention? If we are teaching constitutional law, then what was the principles of constitution? What was principles of Raja Dharma? What was the meaning of dharma? What was the accountability of the state? What was the accountability of the king towards people, towards the kingdom? Okay. So the expert committee has also given guidelines, general guidelines to implement Indian knowledge system, integrate Indian knowledge system into our curriculum. They have given general guidelines, but that's why I said that they say that at least 50% of the credit appointed to the Indian knowledge system, it should be related to major disciplines and should be accounted for credits assigned to the major discipline. So we can't immediately start with 50% credit given to Indian knowledge system, but we can make a beginning the way I mentioned in the curriculum, that we can add one unit or one module in each subject on Indian knowledge system. This with respect to that. It is not that only government is asking, and that is why we have to integrate. I teach constitutional law, and this is one of the fundamental duties of every citizen. In constitution, we find fundamental duty, which was not in the original constitution, which was later added by 44th Amendment. And one of the duties is it shall be duty of every citizen. It shall be duty of the every citizen to promote the cultural heritage of our country. The cultural heritage, the composite, to preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture. So this is duty of every citizen of this country. We have to value, we have to preserve our heritage and composite culture. So we can say that we derive this part of national education policy from this aspect of the constitution. So even if it was not there in the national education policy, it is our duty. It is our duty. Okay. So we can start with philosophy and spirituality. We have a rich philosophical tradition of Vedanta, Buddhism, Jainism, which emphasized on self-realization, ethical living, ethical principles, morality. Now Supreme Court is more on constitutional morality nowadays, has become very, very crucial parameters to decide a particular case. So if we go into the details, we will find roots in our ancient philosophy. Science and mathematics, I have already given you examples of people like scholars like Aryabhatta, whose contribution to mathematics and astronomy is phenomenal. It has been recognized by the global wisdom. Medicine and public health. We have now realizing the importance of Ayurveda. We have now realizing the importance of yoga, focusing on the holistic health and well-being, especially mental well-being, which was seen as a taboo in the society. If somebody is not mentally fit, if somebody, it was taken as a stigma. People will not talk about that he has some kind of mental issue, some kind of mental problem. लोगों को लगेगा नहीं तो पागल आदमी. But now we are realizing, especially after the COVID, that people are suffering, and many people, a large chunk of this population is suffering from some kind of mental problem, some kind of mental issue. So we should discuss. A lot of people are going through anxiety. A lot of people are going through depression. Now, recently we got Mental Health Act, which has recognized this problem in a progressive manner, focusing on the holistic health of the citizen, of the person. Yoga is, in my opinion, is the recent and biggest example how Indian knowledge system can be revived to create a global impact. And we have seen that how yoga has influenced various parts of the world, and people are benefited. So increasing global interest in Ayurveda and yoga for physical and mental well-being is a testimony to the importance of integrating and reviving our Indian knowledge system, our cultural heritage. Arts and literature, we have classical literature like Vedas, Upanishads, Mahabharata, Ramayana, Gita. It may be Quran, it may be Bible. It's a rich heritage. And you will get this in all the communities. We talk about ecology and agriculture. Now we are talking about sustainable agricultural practices. Sustainable agricultural practices, sustainable development, environmental conservation principle. This is a land where we have worshipped environment. We have worshipped rivers. We worship mountains. We worship our nature. So I think we have to revive that culture. Only then all these principles, polluter praise, public trust doctrine, which later Supreme Court has evolved, all these doctrines are derived from our ancient text. All these doctrines are influenced by our ancient culture. So it is not that NEP 2020 has given something which is new or has come from some other planet. It is part of our system. It is part of our culture. It is only that we have to recognize them in clear and explicit terms. Traditional ecological knowledge offers insights into sustainable living and biodiversity conservation, which is one of the biggest problem humanity is facing in recent time. Similarly, agricultural practices like crop rotation and organic farming are gaining attention. I come from legal background, so I can give more examples. These are the examples which I thought I'll give from other disciplines, but I come from law, so I can give you more examples from law. Ancient texts like Upanishads, Arthashastra, they provide lessons in governance, public administration, diplomacy, economic relation, which is relevant to modern political system and modern political ethics. The concept of welfare state, which our constitution has incorporated, and we proudly say India is a welfare state. And where is the provision of welfare state? If we read, there is not one provision, but if we read constitution, especially part 4, directive principles of state policy, it is nothing but principles of social welfare, state welfare. It is borrowed from, we say that it is borrowed from Irish constitution, Constitution of Ireland. This is a wrong approach. Social welfare was not started by Constitution of Ireland. The concept of social welfare was started by ancient Indian traditions. We find examples in our ancient texts, the concept of social welfare. I can give you examples from Arthashastra where Chanakya Kautilya writes, Praja sukhe sukham ragya, praja nam cha hite hitam, natma priya priyam ragyam, praja nam tu priya hitam. It means people's happiness should be king's happiness. Welfare of people is king's welfare. For a king, when I king, it means a state. For a king, there is no task which is only individualistic to him only. It is the king's utmost duty to look after the progress and welfare of the people and the country. So this is the example of a welfare state. What is the obligation of a state? Directive principles of state policy is a direction given to the state by the constitution. If you see Article 37, it says These are the principles which are fundamental in the governance of the country, and it shall be duty of the state to apply these principles while making laws. So these are the principles, directive principles. That's why these were the directions given to the state, how they will incorporate various welfare measures for the well-being of the people, for the citizens of this country. Whether it is education, whether it is health, whether it is working condition, whether it is environment, whether it is conditions of working, whether it is health, right to health and level of nutrition, whether it is distribution of ownership on material resources, whether it is to avoid concentration of wealth. So all these principles which we find in part 4 of the Constitution is principles of welfare of a state. And this welfare of a state, I gave you the examples, the roots we find in Kautilya's Shastra. You will find in other texts also. I gave you one example. Kautilya was a great statesman and thinker. He has written extensively on the duties of king, which we have incorporated in the Constitution. He has also written on the protection of weaker section of the society. So now we talk about affirmative action policy. Because our Constitution mentioned in part 3 and part 4 of the Constitution that empowers the state to make special provisions for the advancement of weaker section of the society. It may be women, it may be children, it may be a backward class, it may be scheduled class, it may be scheduled tribe. But this concept of affirmative action was discussed and it was discoursed long ago in our ancient texts, and which influenced the drafters of the Constitution to incorporate, and that imprints you will find in the original Constitution. You will find pictures of our ancient scholars printed on the original Constitution. We talk about rule of law. Rule of law. And when we say rule of law, what comes to our mind? A.V. Dicey. A.V. Dicey, a British political scientist, philosopher, who developed rule of law. But this is not correct. This is not correct. Rule of law, we find roots in our ancient heritage, ancient text. Again, I would refer one shloka of one of the Upanishads. Tadetat kshatram yadharma tasmar dhamartha param nasti atho baliyan sansate dharme tatha ragya evam. Means law is the king of kings. Law is the king of kings. No one is above the law. Dharma, aided by the power of king, enables weak to prevail over the strong. This is what Dicey has given. That everybody is subject to law. Everybody is subject to law, whether it is President of India, the highest dignitary of the Constitution, or Chief Justice of India, or Prime Minister. Everybody is subject to the law of the land, ordinary law of the land. They may be given some immunity, but that immunity does not mean that they are above the law. They are above the law. And that is why when in 1975, when the Constitution was amended, 39th Amendment was made during emergency, and one provision was added in the Constitution that the election of the Prime Minister cannot be challenged in any court of law. It was challenged in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court declared that it is against rule of law. And rule of law is one of the basic features of the Constitution, which cannot be diluted, which cannot be destroyed, even by the Parliament in exercise of its sovereign power. In exercise of its sovereign powers. So law is the king of kings. I don't find the example of rule of law which is better than this example given in our ancient text. And in spite of that, we say that rule of law principle was enunciated by British philosopher A.V. Dicey. So this is how we can inculcate in the students our ancient heritage, our contributions of our scholars who gave these principles, who discoursed on these principles. Now we are talking about ADR and mediation, alternative dispute resolution and mediation. The roots we find in the ancient Indian tradition. How disputes were resolved. What was the dispute resolution mechanism in our ancient system in various phases, various times. We'll find roots there. Similarly, taxation. What are the principles of taxation? How much tax a king or a state should impose? बहुत सारी प्रॉब्लम चल रही है अभी टैक्सेशन की. We are a tax non-compliant state. Implemented GST, still under severe criticisms. Heavy tax. If we go into the details, if we go through our ancient texts, we will find principles of taxation. Taxation कैसे impose होना चाहिए? Banking, water management, one of the biggest problem in today's time, contemporary times. Water management is going to be one of the biggest crises humanity has faced till now. We have to go into our ancient heritage and we have to find out some solutions, some good practices. Disaster management. Humanitarian law. Humanitarian law we teach in the international law. Humanitarian law, it is the entire world, the entire global community has realized that it is contribution of the ancient Indian law, because there was no law of war. It was only in the Mahabharata when first time we discussed that these are the principles on which we are going to fight this war between Kauravas and Pandavas. And those principles have now been incorporated into humanitarian law, the 4 Geneva Conventions. Refugee law, international refugee law has also influenced. Since the beginning of the civilization, our culture has promoted, our traditions has promoted and preached diversity. This is a place which has accommodated and embraced all kinds of racial, cultural, linguistic, and religious diversity. We believe in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means the world is a family. We believe in a principle called Athithi Devo Bhava. Our guests are our God. And this is reflected in the fact that India has given asylum India has given refuge to millions of people. Millions of people. And this is important more on the fact that India has not signed the Convention on the Status of Refugees. There is a 1951 convention, international convention, which India has not signed, India has not ratified. So we are legally, we are not binding to provide refuge to refugees. But in spite of that, because of our tradition, because of our culture, rich heritage, that we believe in these principles of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and Atithi Devo Bhava, we have given refuge to lot of refugees who had fear of persecution, who had threat to their life and liberty in their own country, and they requested our state, our country, to protect them. So we have protected Tibetan refugees, we have protected Burmese refugees, we have given asylum to Chakma refugees, we have given asylum to Afghan refugees. Okay. We have not signed the convention. We are not bound by the convention. So if we don't give, if we refuse, international community will not say that why India is not giving. But in spite of that, we have given. And you will get several examples where I remember one particular case where when there was a dispute in the state of Arunachal Pradesh and Assam, because this is a bordering state, we share border with the Bangladesh, and a lot of refugees were coming from Bangladesh, Chakma refugees, and there was a kind of law and order problem in the state of Arunachal Pradesh and Assam. And the National Human Rights Commission, because the local administration, they wanted to throw those refugees out from the state. But the National Human Rights Commission of the country approached Supreme Court. This can happen only in our country. So an HRC approached Supreme Court to protect the rights of fundamental rights of these refugees who, even if they have come illegally, even if they have come without passport, even if they have come without permission, but if there is a fear of persecution, if there is a threat to their life, we can't force them. And the Supreme Court accepted in the state of Arunachal Pradesh versus National Human Rights Commission versus state of Arunachal Pradesh. This was called Chakma refugee case. Supreme Court said that we can't throw them out like this. You should follow the government of Arunachal Pradesh, the government of Assam should follow a process. Because right to life given in the constitution, right to equality given under the constitution is available to all the citizens, friend. It says every person, no person shall be deprived of his life and liberty except procedure established by law. So you can deprive only when there is a procedure established by law. You have to follow principles of natural justice, and process must be just, fair and reasonable. It should not be arbitrary, otherwise it will be violative of Article 14 of the Constitution, which is also available to a foreigner. Yeah. So there are fundamental rights which are available to the foreigners also, like Article 14, Article 21, Article 25. So friends, Indian knowledge system, in my opinion, remains highly relevant today. It offers solutions. It can offer solution to various contemporary challenges which we are facing as a country in the sector of health, in the sector of sustainability, public administration, water management. I gave you several other examples. So embracing and integrating this Indian knowledge system content can foster a more holistic an inclusive approach to modern life, and it will enrich both individual, society, and it has the potential to create a global impact. It has potential to create a global impact. I gave you examples of yoga. So I will stop here. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity and inviting me to deliver keynote address. I have various programs lined up today, so I could not. That's why I requested that it should be preponed in the morning. We are signing today an MOU with NIT Agartala, Tripura, and then we will receive our Chief Minister in our institution at 1 p.m. because we have organized a one-day workshop. Today we are implementing three criminal laws. So today is a very important day for the Law University. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I am grateful.
Thank you very much, sir, for such an enlightening lecture.
Good morning, everyone. Myself, Dr. Vandana Mishra, Assistant Professor, Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, Integral University. It is my honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks for today's enlightening seminar on the Indian knowledge system. On behalf of the organizing committee, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to all those who have contributed to the success of this first session. Firstly, I would like to express my deep appreciation to our esteemed speaker, Professor Yogesh Pratap Singh, Vice-Chancellor, National Law University, Tripura, for sharing their profound knowledge and insight on the Indian knowledge system. Your enlightening discourse has shed light on the rich and diverse heritage of India, emphasizing its relevance and application in contemporary times. Your expertise and passion for the subject have truly inspired us all. Once again, thank you, sir, accepting our invitation in a very short time period. I would like to thank our distinguished guests and participants for their presence and engagement in our first session. Your enthusiasm and active participation had enriched the seminar, making it truly interactive and dynamic experience. As we conclude this first session, let us carry forward the knowledge and insight we have gained and continue to explore the vast expanse of Indian knowledge system in this session to come. Thank you once again. Now, I would forward the see you for the next lecture.
Yes, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, am I audible there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now I would like to invite Dr. Shainaz to introduce our speaker, Professor Ayaz Ahmad.
Thank you, Pallavi ma'am, for inviting me. Good morning, everyone. I, Dr. Shainaz, Assistant Professor, Political Science, feel privileged to introduce our guest speaker, Professor Ayaz Ahmad, sir. Dr. Ayaz Ahmad is a professor at Unitedworld School of Law, Karnataka University, and Fulbright visiting scholar at the Department of Philosophy, Columbia University. He is also the director of Center for Advocacy for Social Inclusion and Public Policy, United World School of Law. Dr. Ayaz began his academic career from National Law University, Odisha, and moved to Global Law School, Global University as the founding faculty. Dr. Ayaz has published several research papers in reputed journals and opinion pieces in leading newspapers, magazines, and webzines. He has contributed several book chapters in edited volumes on the Indian Supreme Court. He has participated in several national and international conferences, seminars, and workshops. Dr. Ayaz teaches constitutional law, environmental law, human rights, and interpretation of statutes. His research interests include constitutional theory and practice, privatization of higher education and social justice, environmental dispute, adjudication, and judicial process. Dr. Ayaz is always concerned with the expansion of the frontiers of equality, liberty, and fraternity within the democratic framework. On the behalf of conveners and organizing committee members of this 3 days national seminar on Indian knowledge system, interdisciplinary insights, and contemporary discourse, and Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, I welcome you, sir. Now the session is over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Shanaz, for that generous introduction, and also for having me here for this very interesting, very important faculty development program. I thank the head of the Department of Social Science and Humanities, and also Professor Zishan Varsi for contacting me and inviting me for this program. This is also a very privileged occasion for me to speak after Professor Dr. Yogesh Pratap Singh, who has been my mentor as well as PhD supervisor. I started my career under him when he was the head of law school at the National Law University, Odisha, and I later worked with him at local law school as well. Submitted my PhD under him. And I have been listening to his lecture, his keynote address. I think much of what I wanted to discuss has been very nicely set up by Professor Dr. Yogesh. And therefore, I would like to take up from where he has left. If you have noticed that his lecture has demarcated the presence of knowledge systems as well elements of knowledge which date back to several centuries within the Indian subcontinent, and who are also present in contemporary modern knowledge systems as well. And that's where I would like to take up my topic from. And that has to do with the nature of knowledge itself and the question of ownership of knowledge, right? Who should we take knowledge to belong to? And then what are the implications when we try to approach the question of knowledge from geographical and territorial boundaries? When UGC proposed this integration of Indian knowledge system into curriculum, I think this gives us an opportunity, this is an occasion, an opportunity for us to discuss in depth the question of knowledge getting constituted from variety of sources. And then how should we approach contemporary knowledge systems? If you look at the list of that syllabus which UGC has produced, the themes that it has given, you will see most of the themes are prefixed by Indian knowledge system. So Indian knowledge system and philosophy, Indian knowledge system sociology, Indian knowledge system and education, Indian knowledge system and medicine, Indian knowledge system and astronomy, and so on and so forth. Going by that theme, one is obliged to think that UGC believes, at least, the present dispensation of UGC believes that knowledge is divisible, that it can be divided on the basis of territorial geographical origins. And that's the question that I think we need to explore as faculty members, as researchers. And what are the implications for the development of knowledge from the present state of knowledge? And I would do so with reference to political philosophy, my area of contemporary research. That's where I would like to draw from. And I would relate with the contemporary political philosophy as well as certain elements of political philosophy which were developed in ancient India, as well as some elements which were developed during medieval India. And I would like to explore the question whether this approach to take knowledge divisible into geographical and territorial pockets, that this is Indian knowledge system. The moment we express ourselves engaging with Indian knowledge system, we also give away the fact that there exists a body of knowledge which is not Indian, which is therefore foreign knowledge system. In this presentation of the subject, of the themes, that there is Indian knowledge system, it is implicit that the divide, the division of knowledge, knowledge of the East and knowledge of the West, the classical Occidental versus Oriental knowledge systems, East versus West knowledge system, it is implicit. If we assert and claim that there is an Indian knowledge system, then we have to also simultaneously acknowledge and accept that there happens to be a non-Indian knowledge system, which is either Chinese knowledge system, Japanese knowledge system, Russian, Arabian, Persian, European, and now increasingly American knowledge system. And if we accept these territorial divisions of knowledge, and here I'm, the way UGC has presented it, designed its themes, it is not confined to social sciences alone, as I just mentioned, that it encompasses all disciplines of science, engineering, and medicine as well. What are the implications if we accept this territorial divisibility of knowledge? I would start by engaging with the two dominant themes about the nature of knowledge. A field in philosophy which is also studied as epistemology. The dominant view, one view is, not the dominant, but one view prevalent, and it can be found both in Euro-American academies as well as in Eastern Indian, Chinese, and Japanese, Russian traditions as well. The view is that knowledge is divisible. Knowledge can be divided in terms of geographical, territorial, religious, ethnic, racial origins. That with reference to origins, knowledge can be divided. And along with that claim that knowledge can be divided, there is also an inherent claim that at any given point of time, those who originate a particular kind of knowledge, they happen to be superior to the people who have not managed to develop that body of knowledge at that point of time. Right? So separatism, separatist, as well as supremacist, two elements go with the moment we accept knowledge is divisible. If knowledge is divisible, we have to also accept that it has different separatist origins, separate origins, and those who develop a particular form of knowledge, they happen to be superior to people who are at that point of time not developing that kind of knowledge or who did not develop that kind of knowledge. So this is one view. And we have been a victim of this view when this view was present in Euro-American tradition, especially in Europe, when they were on their civilizing mission, colonizing the rest of the world, the Africa, Middle East, and Indian subcontinent. That because industrial revolution had happened in Europe, enlightenment and Renaissance had happened in Europe, they developed some body of knowledge which was superior, and therefore white people as a race were superior, and therefore it was white man's burden to civilize the rest of the world, right? So therefore, the first view, which is a popular view, which is present in Indian tradition as well, I'll come to Indian subcontinent tradition as well. The claim that knowledge is divisible, and therefore those who develop a particular form of knowledge, they happen to be superior a lot of people because they have done something which is their own self-creation. There is no contribution of rest of the humanity. So that was one version with which we have had very bad experience in the form of colonialism, white man's burden, the claim through production of knowledge, and therefore superiority, supremacy of the European race. This view, a counter view is prevalent in Indian subcontinent as well, that there was a time when we produced some kind of a body of knowledge, which was territorially, geographically, it originated in Indian subcontinent, and therefore at that time we happened to be a superior lot. So then we in Indian subcontinent were superior to rest of the world. That is one claim which is found and which has been there and continues to be there. There is a second view about knowledge. The second view about knowledge is that knowledge is not divisible. All knowledge is integrative and collaborative. Whichever discipline of knowledge that we are talking at any given point of time, whosoever may be the immediate discoverer or innovator or improviser of that body of knowledge, that person or that group of people, they manage to do so with the help of contribution made by the rest of the humanity as well. So when rest of the humanity has accumulated certain form of knowledge experience, that is when it becomes possible for a particular individual or group of individuals to develop a more advanced, more superior, more refined versions of that body of knowledge. Therefore, in every knowledge development, improvement, improvisation, innovation, there is always already a claim of the entire humanity. If certain pre-existing elements were not present in Europe in that 15th, 16th century, 17th century, when European Renaissance Enlightenment happened, those elements which were on the move from rest of the world, including Indian subcontinent, Russia, China, the Chinese territories, and Japanese, Middle Eastern, Persian, Arabian, and rest of the world, European Renaissance, European Enlightenment may not have happened. Industrial Revolution may not have happened. So while it is true that Industrial Revolution, Renaissance, and Enlightenment happened in Europe, Europeans do not become exclusive owner of that body of knowledge. In that body of knowledge, there is already a claim of rest of the humanity. This is the second view. And in this second view, knowledge becomes integrative and collaborative enterprise. And therefore, the question of claiming superiority, that we develop a particular form of knowledge, therefore we are superior a lot of people, or XYZ territory did not develop that particular form of knowledge, therefore they are inferior and therefore they must be civilized. Both notions of superiority and inferiority, they are knocked out. They are knocked out. And therefore, what happens is that one is able to engage with a contemporary body of knowledge in any discipline, in any field of study, with a sense of confidence. So it does not matter to me that I am a student of medical science in India, but I am studying certain medical science theories which have been developed in, say, America or Europe or Russia, China. That knowledge which was developed in America, Europe, China, Russia, that already had the contributors from Indian subcontinent. That body of knowledge had already traveled, percolated, and informed the development of contemporary form of medical science and theory. Therefore, I don't need to have any sense of inferiority vis-a-vis the present body of medical science or engineering or this information technology through which we are interacting. Or for that matter, social sciences, political philosophy, the discipline with which I am engaged now. Political philosophy, and therefore I will take my example from the field of political philosophy. In the field of political philosophy, those of us who are a student of social science, we know that the most advanced and contemporary social and political theory happens to be post-structural discourse theory. Post-structural discourse theory has its contemporary form, has very deep roots in Europe as well as in America. Now, there are two key principles, which are fundamental, which are foundation or very elementary to the whole field of post-structural discourse analysis, post-structural social and political theory. Two principles. One is non-essentialism and second is non-rationalism. Non-essentialism, as we know, informs that no object has got any essential meaning of its own. Meaning of any object does not lie within its own design or structure. Meaning is established through a relational complex, through a relation of difference and relation of equivalence. So whether it is a physical object that we are looking at, or whether it is a conceptual object or historical object, its meaning is going to be fixed in a discourse, in a relationship of difference and equivalence. That is first principle, which is integral, which is inherent, which I would say is the basic principle of post-structural discourse analysis. Inherent to this first principle is the second principle, which is non-rationalism. That this ensemble of relationship, the relational complex, which fixes the meaning of any object, whether physical, historical, or conceptual, is non-rationalist. The popular phrase that we use in social science, political philosophy, is that it has been discursively constructed. That is basically to say that it is non-rationally constructed. There is no natural, there is no rational way to connect and establish the relationship between one object and the other. Great deal of it is very arbitrary. These two principles of non-rationalism, non-essentialism and non-rationalism, which are very central to post-structural discourse theory. If we do genealogical study of these two principles, which are foundation of contemporary social and political theory, you find that, coming back to Indian knowledge system, and then establishing the relationship and substantiating my argument, you find that these two principles, which are so key, it's so fundamental to post-structural discourse theory, they were present in Nagarjuna's seminal work, Madhyamika, Kanarika. Nagarjuna, working in 4th, 5th AD, he had developed his theory of what in Indian language known as Shunyavad, theory of emptiness, and the contingent origination. Two concepts which were developed by Nagarjuna, theory of emptiness, which relates with non-essentialism, and the examples are also exactly like this, that no object has got any internal inherent essential meaning of its own, and then his principle of contingent origination goes on to develop principle of non-rationalism. So a European theory, Euro-American theory, one might say, post-structural discourse theory, contains elements whose traces are present in very old Indian subcontinent originated knowledge elements, knowledge principles in Nagarjuna. And one further interrogates Nagarjuna's sources, how he developed his, how he worked out his treatise and his principle of emptiness and contingent origination. relationship can be established and demonstrated, and it is demonstrated by scholars that he was influenced by Greek Pyrrhonism. Greek Pyrrhonism it informed him, he was aware, he interacted, Nagarjuna interacted with them, and he borrowed some of the principles from Greek philosophy. But when we further interrogate, say, Pyrrhonism in Greek, the contemporary philosophy or thought, social political thoughts, just preceding Nagarjuna and Pyrrhonism in Greek, and when we try to trace the ideas and sources of the principle which were developed in Greece, from which Nagarjuna developed his principles of emptiness and contingent origination, we find a great deal of influence from Buddhism. That Greek philosophy itself was greatly influenced by Buddhism, Buddhist principles of the famous Buddha's middle path, Madhyam Marg. So in one field of theory, one field of knowledge, if we trace and interrogate the sources from which a particular form of contemporary body of knowledge has developed, we find that it has been informed by a variety of sources. There is hardly any territorial or geographical limitation which informs a particular body of knowledge. Therefore, if we make an error or mistake of going back to some kind of, say, 2000 years, 1500 years knowledge system, or 2100 years back, 2500 knowledge system, and start working from there, that we will go back to Nagarjuna and we will work our way up from Nagarjuna till present, and we will develop our own some kind of indigenous social and political theory. Because post-structural theory happens to be Euro-American, it is foreign, it is not Indian, therefore we reject it, and we will go back to some kind of Indian knowledge system, which is native knowledge system. This kind of exercise, if done, say, in the field of medicine, in the field of information technology, in the field of science and engineering, imagine the kind of self-destruction that we are out to do to ourselves. Because we will then start from zero. Then we will have to go back to zero, because zero was invented in India. The succeeding numbers are not to be taken from the point from which they have been developed further and refined in multiple number series. We reject all number series because most of them happen to be Euro-American, and therefore we go back to Shunya, our own original zero, and start developing knowledge from there. If instead of creating knowledge for the future, we try to recreate knowledge of the past, the tendency to give up our claim and ownership of the body of knowledge which informs the contemporary world, in which there is already a source, an element, and contribution of the people in the Indian subcontinent, and of course, people from all parts of the world. If we are constantly trying to recreate the past, rather than create a better future on the basis of contemporary knowledge, this is a key question. Whether what is going to be our starting point? The present body of knowledge, present state of knowledge, whereby we acknowledge that in the present body of knowledge, whatever is the territorial or geographical origin, in it there is already a contribution of people from India, Indian subcontinent, and of course people from other part of the world. So we have an equal claim and ownership of that body of knowledge. And now we are going to develop it further to improve our future, rather than recreate the past. Once we adopt this mindset of recreating the past, we are living in knowledge world. This is a knowledge society, increasingly a knowledge society. Even the military action is not knowledge driven. It is not muscle driven anymore. We are opening ourselves up to self-destruction, massive destruction. The claim that there happens to be a body of knowledge which is Indian, and there is a body of knowledge which is not Indian. All body of knowledge is Indian. This is my claim, which is born by philosophical reflection. And whichever body or discipline of knowledge one may pick up, we'll find the same traces, same elements. Therefore, when we study any discipline, psychology, history, philosophy, sociology, law, we anyways do genealogical study. There is an introductory chapter, a historical chapter, whereby we try to trace different sources, whether Indian, Arabian, Persian, Chinese, European, American, we do it, and it must be done. Any sincere, serious student of any discipline will do that genealogical study, tracing of the thoughts and elements, how they develop from different sources. But what I sense in this prefixing of Indian knowledge system is kind of giving up the heritage of collective humankind, a body of knowledge which has been developed as a result of combined human experience. We somehow get into the trap of inferiority superiority complex because we have accepted the first principle that knowledge is divisible. If we reject that principle, and all evidence points towards that direction, that there is no such evidence of divisibility of knowledge at all points of time, at the glory of, say, Arabian and Persian knowledge system, there is evidence that they had borrowed from Indian, Chinese, European, Greece knowledge systems and traditions, and they translated many of the work done in the subcontinent and other parts of the world, which went to Europe, and from there Renaissance and Enlightenment happened. Contribution of which part of the world are we going to deny? And vis-a-vis which parts of the world we are going to harbor inferiority complex? We study medicine, but we feel that no, we have developed some kind of our knowledge system. There happens to be our knowledge, Indian knowledge system, and the contemporary medical science, contemporary information science technology, contemporary political science and philosophy, contemporary psychology, that is suspect. Contemporary body of knowledge is suspect because it is not Indian enough. Without any trace of evidence, we give up the claim. Euro-Americans developed the body of knowledge which they did develop because of the long contribution of different parts of the world, thinkers, scholars, knowledge workers in different parts of the world. There was no IP regime at that time, and there was hardly any boundary policing that we see today. We go back before Westphalian peace treaty in Europe, we hardly happened to be any kind of a territorial policing in terms of knowledge. And before IP regime, there was hardly any kind of intellectual property right. And therefore, if if I have developed some methodology of surgery, you cannot copy it because I have got patent over it and I will put you behind the bars. These kind of systems were not there just a few centuries back. So Europeans, Americans freely borrowed from all parts of the world. So did Arabians, so did Persians, so did Chinese, so did Indians, so did Russians. All kind of scholars, thinkers, knowledge workers from all parts of the world, they freely, openly borrowed and developed. Developed to the stage where we can, I am sitting in America, can have this kind of conversation with people from a region where I actually come from. I come from the city of Bahrain, which is next to Lucknow. Therefore, I think this is a very good opportunity for us to interrogate this problem, to address this question of inferiority and superiority that has taken grip of large part of the society in many parts of the world, not just in India. Nativism is on the rise. Let us go back to glorious Islamic knowledge system. Everything was developed there 1500 years back, 1000 years back. There was glorious, knowledge was developed to such an extent. This is not to deny that knowledge was not developed. It was. But since then, much water has flown down the river Gomti, as well as the river Hudson and Thames. Knowledge has been taken to a very different level since then. It has been developed, improved, improvised, added upon. And similarly, to try to go back to, say, Vedic glory. Of course, it was a good period and great period of knowledge development. But since then, look at what has happened to Nagarjuna's body of knowledge and Buddhist body of knowledge. Since then, it has been developed, improvised, and taken to new levels. That does not mean that we cease to be ownership of that body of knowledge. We are very much owner of the post-structural discourse theory, because it does contain contribution of people who were living and working in the Indian subcontinent. Yeah. Therefore, I think this question of incorporating knowledge systems, contribution of different geographical locations, scholars, thinkers, philosophers, knowledge workers from different part of the world, that definitely, I think this is already part of it. Our curriculum, it was always a part of our curriculum. When I studied BLLB in Aligarh Muslim University, Masters at Delhi University, National University, I could see in sociology, in political science, history, law, almost all traditions, all disciplines, and then later on when I picked up philosophy, in all disciplines, I could always see that there is an introductory chapter, there is always an historical chapter, module or unit in which contribution or thoughts, older thoughts, medieval period, ancient period, contemporary period was studied and is studied. If there are any weaknesses, any gaps, few important thinkers have been left out, few important contributors have been left out, I think that must immediately be augmented and improved upon. But we must not accept this principle that knowledge is divisible. Knowledge is not divisible. Knowledge cannot be divided in terms of territorial, geographical, religious, racial, or any kind of contingent origination. Ultimately, this whole idea of contingent origination was Nagarjuna's idea. We cannot accept it. We have to start working from the present contemporary body of knowledge, whatever is our discipline, and then acknowledge the contribution of thinkers, philosophers from all parts of the world, including Indian subcontinent. There has been very substantial contribution, both in the ancient India as well as in medieval India. Who can forget the contribution of Baba Kabir in the medieval India, Sant Raidas in medieval India, Begumpura, the kind of concept of Begumpura, Sant Raidas, Amar Deswa by Baba Kabir. Much before Karl Marx, there was an imagination of Begumpura, and much better, much superior imagination which happened within India. So that contribution has to be included and incorporated in any contemporary body of knowledge, whether it is undergraduate level, postgraduate level, or research level, PhD. That should be worked out. But the elementary question of, I think it must not be conceded that knowledge is divisible. There happens to be some kind of a territorial divisibility of knowledge. That is a very regressive move. I think it will push us in a trap, in a downward trap, in terms of knowledge, because we will not start from the contemporary body of knowledge. We will start from the older version of contemporary body of knowledge, and then from coming back many centuries, working our way up to many centuries to the present body of knowledge, we will never be in a position to improve the knowledge, present body of knowledge. We will never be we will always be doing the catch-up act. Here, and I would conclude by giving one contemporary example how different societies have handled it. The matter has been how it has been handled by Chinese, for example. At Columbia University, when I first put my foot here at Columbia University some 8-9 months back, I saw a large number of Chinese students here. Large number of Chinese students. And over the period, my interaction with Chinese professors, scholars, researchers, teachers has been that from the 1980s, there has been a great influx of Chinese people here in America, especially American educational institutions. Now, what they did was, it was a state publicly funded, state supported and funded student exposure to contemporary body of knowledge. Chinese students on state funds, government funds, were sent to different American universities. There was government to government understanding, but the funding was all Chinese government funding. And students were asked to acquire contemporary body of knowledge Go back to China. In China, they were invited back after they had acquired certain body of knowledge in all fields, science, technology, engineering, social sciences. And then from there, they were asked to develop it further. And now today we see that they are competitive. They are at par with, if not better than American and European knowledge systems and whatever knowledge academies in terms of whichever field of knowledge you pick up. It is not that they do not acknowledge, the Confucius and their Taos and the Confucius as well as Buddhas. They do, because my interaction with comparative philosophy department is also is very, very strong. I see that they do acknowledge Tao, Confucius, and Buddhist influence, but at no point of time they are ready to reject contemporary body of knowledge by claiming a superiority of ancient Chinese knowledge system. Nobody does that. Nobody accepts this division, that there was this knowledge can be divided. There can be Chinese knowledge system and there can be American knowledge system or European knowledge system. They take up the contemporary body of knowledge and then start working on it, trying to improve upon it. They have the largest number of, all kinds of publications, rankings, whatever. And then, of course, innovations in science and technology, it is very visible. But in the field of social sciences also, I can see in democratic theory, you see social theory, you have Chinese professors, Chinese thinkers, scholars working, very, very good work, very high quality work. On Indian social and political science and history, I can see some Chinese doing some excellent work. Because they start from present. Whenever a starting point is present, past contribution is acknowledged, and it is acknowledged positively, affirmatively. That even, so let us take this example once again. Even when, say, the Confucius, the Taos, and the Nagarjunas and Buddhas were working in India, and Aryabhattas, at that point of time, they could not develop that body of knowledge without the contribution of rest of the humanity. If our premise is that at any point of time, a particular kind of knowledge becomes possible on the basis of accumulated human knowledge over a long period of time from variety of sources, then that brilliant insight of Buddha could not come up all on his own. Even at that time, the rest of the humanity had a stake in what Buddha could say, or Nagarjuna could say, or Confucius could say, or Tao could say, or think and express, or Aryabhatta could say and think and express. This argument will remain consistent. We cannot remain trapped in time. If we deny Europeans, white Europeans and Americans, exclusive ownership of modern knowledge, and we claim that rest of the world has a stake in it and ownership in it, we certainly have, as colonized a lot of people, we certainly have, and whose knowledge elements and resources were looted. We cannot then in turn maintain that somehow we created knowledge system which was sui generis, in which there was no contribution, say, of the people from Africa. There was contribution of people from Africa, from Mesopotamia, from China, from other parts of the world. At every point of time, we will have to accept and acknowledge the contribution of rest of the humanity in making that body of knowledge possible. And therefore, the integrative and collaborative approach towards knowledge. Accepting the unity of knowledge and the importance of working our way up from the contemporary body of knowledge to address our contemporary problems in order to build a brighter future, a better future, a more happy and prosperous future. On those words, I would stop and see if there are some questions or comments that colleagues would like to ask or make. Thank you so much for patiently listening to me, for giving this opportunity, for having me in this program. I'm really grateful.
Thank you, Dr. Ayaz. Dear participants, if you have any query or any question or any comment, you may please ask. He is available here with us. Any of you, any participant? Chat box, follow the chat box. There are no questions. So over to you.
Well, if there are
ma'am.
no questions, then once again, thank you everyone. Thank you, the
Please.
HOD for.
Please wait. Well, Pallavi ma'am, over to you.
Now I would like to invite Dr. Anshul Ali Tiger. Please, sir, over to you.
Thank you, Pallavi ma'am. Good morning, everyone. And thank you, Professor Ayaz Ahmad, for such an enlightening and informative lecture. And it is my honor to privilege to propose the vote of thanks for today's this enlightening session on the Indian knowledge system on the behalf of organizing committee and Department of Humanities and Social Sciences. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to all those who have contributed to the success of this first session. Firstly, I would like to express my deep appreciation to our esteemed speaker, Professor Ayaz Ahmad, in United School of Law, Karnataka University, for sharing their profound knowledge and insight on the Indian knowledge system, encompassing and emphasizing its relevance and application to the contemporary discourse. You, sir, your expertise and passion for the subject have truly inspired us all, and I would like to thank you, our distinguished guests and participants, for their presence and engagement in our first session. As we conclude the first session, let us carry forward the knowledge and insight we have gained and continue to explore the vast expanse of Indian knowledge system in the sessions to come. Thank you once again, sir. I look forward to seeing you for the next, in the near future, seminars as well as the conferences. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
You wanted to say something, Dr. Ayaz?
Yeah, I look forward to future interaction if there is an occasion to be physically there as well. Because, as I said, I come from the place. I pass from Lucknow, especially Integral University. That is my route to back to my hometown, Bahrain. So if there is an occasion, whenever I'm back to India, I would love to be physically with all of you and have discussion on such important. I think these questions are of civilizational importance and just not marginal questions which can be discussed and just forgotten in seminar. But these are civilizational questions of extraordinary importance. I would love to be with you people physically as well and interact with them.
Very soon,
looking forward.
inshallah. Whenever you have any plan to visit your native place, just let us know, and we will definitely have some physical session with you. So,
Sure.
okay, thank you so
Looking
much.
forward.
Take.
Have a wonderful seminar. Bye bye, everyone. Best of luck.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Participants.
Dear participants, the technical session will start from 12 noon and we will take a break for lunch. It's a tea break.